Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you.
We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Céline Remy, and we are here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and beyond.
All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 199. Ooh, we're almost at that 200 mark. And it is titled Getting Past the Awkward Dry Spell. So we have a guest today, and what we're really going to be talking about is her journey from, and we'll get way more into this, so I don't want to give too much of it in the intro, but her journey from basically taking several years off of exploring her sexuality or having sex at all, and then what changed her mind, how she got back into it, and then hopefully some really juicy stories about her sexplorations that happened after that. So I think it could be really inspiring for people because you're really going to hear both sides. You're going to hear because sometimes people are like, no, I just need to be celibate, right? And then later on in life, they're like, no, I just need to go out and fuck everything that moves, right? And so I'm pretty sure you're going to get both perspectives today from somebody who really has experienced both. Like, why did she decide to do that, both of those things? And what was her experience with those? And so, I don't know, I think there could be a lot of value here for people who are in either of those positions going, well, maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that, right?
Yeah, I like picture this, that you're sitting down, grabbing your favorite drink of any kind, doesn't have to be alcohol, but kick back, relax, and kind of be this voyeur and live vicariously through Leila. So let's just give a big shout out to our sponsors before we bring in our guests. If you want to join the secret club of men who are great in bed, then check out Power and Mastery at powerandmastery.com. It is the most complete sexual mastery training for men. Whether you want to have harder erections, last longer, or increase your sexual skills, there is something for you at powerandmastery.com. So make sure you go check it out. Our guest today is Layla London, and she just recently decided to explore her sexuality after 3.5 years of self-imposed dry spell. She woke up one day and said, hey, what the heck am I doing to myself? Why have I just shut off that side of my sexuality? I need some physical contact badly. So basically, she decided to stop wasting the pretty and get out there. And she set out her sexual road trip and scratching things off her sex bucket list, and now she's getting laid, exploring kinks and having all kind of fun and sifting through the emotions that it stirs up in her. She is blogging and podcasting about it anonymously, and she is here today on the Love Lab podcast. So welcome, Layla London.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here today with you. I can't wait to jump into all the juicy details.
So if you're listening, I should say, and you're not watching on the video, then you won't notice anything different. But if you're watching on the video, you might notice that you can't see Layla's face. So she is staying anonymous. But if you are watching on the video, you have a great shot of her breasts. So
hey, it's still worth looking.
Exactly.
But I know. I don't know if they're showing out the way they should. Like I said, I forgot that I had to tip the camera down. So I'm like, I don't know if they're really, they're kind of smashed. I have a sports bra on under here. So they're not really placed the right way, but that's okay.
Still nice to look at nonetheless.
and today you have permission to stare at somebody's breast, Kevin,
for
40 plus minutes. This is like, wow. How often does that happen?
I will be glued to the screen.
Bonus. There's your bonus. That's right.
Exactly.
We're really going to watch the episode now.
So Leila, let's get back to the beginning. How on earth did you end up being celibate for like 3.5 years? Let's start with that.
Yes. Let's roll the clock back. Okay. Well, that kind of wasn't necessarily intentional. It's just that I think probably like a lot of people, you get I'm a type A, I'm very driven in my business life. And I just kind of got to this point where I was so caught up in my business doing well. And I was getting a lot of rewards from that. The money, that was great. And I started to really associate sort of who I was and get a lot of my positive, atta girls and feedback from the success of my business. So I really just kept, when you're getting that positive reinforcement, you keep pouring into it, pouring into it, pouring into it. And I really just was kind of a little bit obsessive about it. And I enjoyed it, but I was obsessive to the detriment of some other things. And my personal life was one of those things. It just kind of became a perception of mine that anybody that wanted to date me or spend time with me, that was taking away from the business and work. And I kind of protected that like a relationship in a way, so I went along, and then 3.5 years into it, I really just had this epiphany where, and people ask me, well, what drove that? I don't know, to be honest with you. But I remember the moment I was in the bathroom in the mirror. I think I'd just gotten out of the shower, I was like we do, I'm checking my bod, and I'm like, yeah, it looks good. And I thought, you know what am I doing to myself? I'm like, I am wasting the pretty. Someone needs to get the benefit of this. And I haven't had any sort of physical touch, physical contact in 3.5 years. This just has to stop. So I very quickly put on my business hat, I'm like, okay, wait, there's a problem. Now you got to solve it. And I just kind of went into business mode about it, came up with a plan of action and executed. And literally within about 10 days, that was the end of that.
Oh, we're going to get into that. Yeah. It's funny. It reminds me a little bit of before we got together.
Oh my gosh, I thought the same thing, love.
So Céline and I were friends for several years before we got together. We were in different relationships. We've talked about this on the show a lot. And finally, when our relationship situations shifted and we were both actually available for each other, I reached out to Céline and said, hey, if you're still interested, and her response was, I'm too busy working on my business.
That was literally what I told him. I have no time for you. I'm too busy with my business.
Boy, did you almost miss out.
Well, obviously you overcame that because you guys are together, right?
Yeah, that was a whole other story. But I'm curious, before we get too much into the sexual exploration type stuff, I'm wondering if there were any lessons that you learned about yourself during that 3.5 year period. Like, you said it wasn't intentional to decide to be celibate for 3.5 years, but nonetheless you were. So did you learn anything about yourself, what you needed, what you were missing, what you wanted?
Well, I would say that it was what I really learned, is in hindsight. I think that's kind of a lot of times what our biggest teacher is, because sometimes when you're in something, you don't really see the forest through the trees. So for me, what I took away from that is I just realized about habits and intention. And when people find themselves stuck in something, it's because it's really become a habit and it's familiar. It's like whether you're good at working out or you're not good at working out. It's not, I don't know that it's so much. It is discipline, but also, the discipline I think is in the beginning, and then things become a habit. We just become accustomed to doing them every day or not doing them every day. And that's the big thing. That was my key takeaway, is I had just gotten so accustomed to not having physical relationships that it felt normal.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, this is actually a really good point to bring up to people, because we work with a lot of clients, and some of them are dating frequently and some of them aren't, but want to be. And I think maybe something they don't realize is they're not doing the things in life that would create the outcome that they want, right? So for instance, if your outcome is you want to have dates and you want to have connection and you want to have sex with people, but you're not making the space for it in your life, then you're not congruent there, right? So I think it's a good point for people to realize. It's like, if you're really in that dry spell, take a deep look at your life. Where are you not creating space? Where are you not creating the right mix of ingredients for the outcome that you want?
Yes. And or just simply put, you've made it a habit not to. You can make it a habit to do it, so, and it really is just as easy. One is just as easy as the other. The perception is that maybe it isn't, but it truly is, because once you just get accustomed to it and you're used to it, it's second nature. It's just something, you do, it becomes a lot more effortless and you're not really thinking about it as much. In the beginning, you're kind of feeling your way around in the dark just a little bit, if you're trying to get back into it, but it very quickly kicks off, and it's like, I guess you want to say riding a bike, it just comes right back.
So I want to come back to that moment in time when you realized that being celibate was a problem for you. Why was that? Because I think that was a really defining moment, and that's probably what lit up a fire under your ass to start moving forward.
Under your ass, in your genitals.
So there was a fire going somewhere, that's for sure. I think that's where I came up with the term "stop wasting the pretty." It's just like, and everybody has it. It's not just a feminine term. I mean, like, you have all these things to offer. Why are you wasting them? Why are you shutting down that side of yourself? And I just thought, this is completely wrong. This is a part of who I am. And I've just totally turned it off and suffocated it. And I knew that to be balanced and really to, feel whole, I'm like, this is not going to work. So I just quickly did a 180.
Yeah, that reminds me, years ago, a mutual friend of Céline and I's, who's a very intelligent person, we were having a conversation just about work stuff. And I was not doing coaching work at that time. And we were just talking about it and, what I was up to. And his words were, if you have knowledge that you can use to help the world and you're not doing it, you're an asshole. That's literally what he told me. And I was like, I guess he's kind of right.
No, I agree. And so I'll play on that even farther. And I'll say, especially to women, because I don't know that I find men shut down not sexually as much as women do. That's just been, I might be wrong about that, but that's just been, from being a female and having female friends, this is what I see. And so I'll tell, when I run across women that are doing this, I just have that same sort of in the mirror, heart to heart that I had with myself with them, and tell them, listen, who are you to deny the world all of this? Somebody needs this. Don't be selfish. You got to put that pretty out there. So, that's really just kind of how I see it. It's like, you have stuff to offer, you should be doing it.
Yeah. And the other thing we know is that,
it doesn't last.
The pretty don't last forever.
It shifts. And there are things that you had that you won't have again. So might as well lose them.
My hairline over.
It's true. That's another point. I mean, I don't want to scare people, but this does not last forever. We have different chapters in our lives, and they're all, you can still be sexy and attractive at every stage, but it is going to be different. And, I know I can admit as a woman, there's, I'll look back at pictures of when I was younger and I'll say, gosh, I remember thinking, I'll look back and I'll go, God, I really looked good. And I remember thinking at the time, I don't know if I look okay. Does this look fat? Does it, or whatever. And you're just caught up in stupidness, so I'm like, I just know, like, you can literally waste the pretty, but I'm not going to let that happen.
Oh yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, because it wasn't that long ago. I was looking back at some older photos of myself, and, when I was in my 30s, I mean, I was rock climbing all around the world, mountain biking all over. I'm still pretty fit, not to say that I'm not, but yeah. I was like super fit, super lean, like single digit body fat numbers, and I had no fucking clue that I was that attractive. I looked at some photos recently and I was like, holy shit, I was good. I should have had like a line of women waiting,
Yeah.
But I had no clue. I didn't even know. I just didn't even have the awareness around it. Otherwise, I would have strutted it some more.
So let's talk about that. You said that you did a total like 180. And you basically went from 3.5 years of a dry spell, and you said, I think you said 10 days that you broke it. So I want to know, like, how did that happen? Because I see a lot of people come up with excuses or saying like they don't have their how-tos. So you might have a how-to that worked for you that might work for others. So please share that.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I kind of got really clear with myself, like, well, if you're going to do this, like, I wanted to make it fun. You know, I wanted to prevent, I wanted to prevent just the quick one off and then reverting back. So I knew myself, and I knew, you know, like if for business, you know, I always have a goal, like what am I trying to accomplish? So I got really clear on what I'm trying to accomplish. And I decided that, you know, if it's fun, I will stay with it, and I'll be interested and carry through with it. So I kind of decided at that point that I was going to come up with a sex bucket list, give myself a year to knock things off. And that was really through this sex bucket list and this commitment to this year of having fun, that's how I was going to pull myself out of this and make sure that I established a good habit, a fun habit that, you know, I would want to maintain. So I made the list, and then I very quickly thought, well, now what do I need? I need men. So I need people who want to.
That's the easy part.
Okay, that is the easy part, but it's quality over quantity. So that's where it gets, you know, a little dicey. So I had to kind of create a little bit of a system there to, you know, qualify quickly and move things forward quickly so that I can get on to the fun stuff. So I quickly joined some dating apps. And, you know, and I was honest, you know, I put that up in my profile, like, this is what I was doing, you know, that I had a sex bucket list and I wanted to knock things off. Well, of course, you know,
500 messages.
Insane. But here's the fun thing is, you know, because I put that out there and people could see what I wanted to do and accomplish, they got on board with it too. And it was like, you know, you're coming together and you both have a common goal right out of the gate. And so that made it fun. And it was also being just completely honest about, you know, what I was trying to do. And it was an icebreaker and a conversation starter, you know, and people that had already done some of this stuff that said, yes, I could lead you safely through trying that. And we'll have a lot of fun and experience with that. Or, hey, I don't have any experience with that, but it's on my list too. So let's do it, you know, and then, you know, you're either with someone that's leading you and has more experience, or you're with someone that you're kind of locking arms and you're like, okay, here we go. You know, we're doing this together. It's our big adventure. Yeah. So it just is fun. And the first guy that I, you know, met and really thought, okay, I'm clicking with him. You know, I have a system. So where I just, you know, it's chatting back and forth quickly. Then I want to move to the phone call because I want to hear your voice. This tells me a lot about somebody. Then I will meet them personally, and it's a face-to-face, you know, like at a Starbucks or whatever, just to see, is there chemistry? Mm-hmm. You know, the things we're talking about doing here, you know, could I see myself doing with you? And then once that's established, you know, then we just kick it off. You know, we just pretty much go right into, you know, dating or friends with benefits, whatever you want to call it. And there's no pressure on anybody that this has to go a certain place. The goal really is that we're united on the fact that these are some things that we want to do together. And from there, you know, a lot opens up. I've had so many great relationships along the way. I mean, because when I started doing this, that was 6 years ago, and I've maintained it. So, you know, and ended up starting a podcast.
Doing something right.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about your system, which is great. If you weren't going to sort of lay out the steps, I definitely wanted to ask that. But you kind of laid out how you went through it with, you know, starting with the chat, moving to the phone call, which I think is great for anybody that's dating. So, you know, we talk obviously with a lot of clients and a lot of friends, and they all struggle with this. How do I decide whether or not this is a good one, right? And they put a lot of energy into people that turn out to be total duds. And so anything that can help them, any sort of a system that they can do to help them get clued in is great. So thank you for sharing that with the audience.
Yeah.
And now I really want to dive into this sex bucket list because I got a lot of questions about this bucket list.
Was the sex bucket list on the dating profile, or do they have to connect with you and then they get an email with it? Is it on a Google Doc? Like, how does it work?
Yeah,
They
is there a
pick and
database
choose?
somewhere?
Do you sign up?
I would have hired somebody to write an app for it, you know?
Yeah. No. So okay. So what I said is I just basically, I said, put right out there. I'm coming out of 3.5-year dry spell. I want to make my sex life a priority. I've created a sex bucket list, and I really I'm looking for somebody, fun and adventurous who wants to help me scratch some things off my list. And so then that was sort of I just left it at that. And then from there, guys would reach out and say, what's on your list? And, and then I kind of have a sex bucket list, or I've always wanted to do the, X, Y, and Z. And so it just, like I said, it was a really good icebreaker and a way to start to sort of let the people know where you were going. Like if someone was like, okay, I'm looking for marriage right now, then they probably would have passed me by. So it was just presented to be more casual and fun, and, let's just see where it goes.
So on a sex bucket list, there can be a wide range of things, from very tame to really crazy and out there. And I imagine over 6 years, your list has contained a pretty broad spectrum. But I'm curious, what was the very first thing that you checked off that list?
The very first thing, well, it was just breaking the dry spell. That's a good question. What was the first thing? I think it was, I wanted to learn how to squirt. And so somebody did that quite proficiently. I didn't believe it. I just thought, this is ridiculous. Who is this guy? Like, he's so confident. He just says, oh yeah, I can do that. And it's like, huh? Come on. Seriously?
So this is cool because you had never squirted before. And how many times did it take? Just the one time you guys were together and he got you to squirt?
The very first time we were together, he got the first time made me squirt.
What did you think about that?
I did, by the way, I did end up seeing him for 3.5 years after that point.
So there was a lot of squirting. I assume you invested in a few sex mats.
Oh,
a closet full of Venus mats.
I don't know how many beds. I cannot tell you how many hotel room beds have been wrecked by him and I. I just
good for you.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like the first night, there was not really a dry spot on that bed. And after that first time with him, I literally he's like, you can stay, stay the night. And I was like, no, I gotta go. I was literally pulling up my pants when my legs were still shaking. I needed to get out of there and process what the fuck just happened here? Like what happened? Somebody knows my body better than me. I don't even believe it. Like this guy's a Jedi master, So
to all our male listeners, if that's a skill you haven't yet learned, see how important that is. Well, it could transform a woman's life.
Not only that, but we actually have a fair amount of women who say they want to learn how to squirt.
Yes.
So ladies, if you're listening, keep in mind, 0 experience. She didn't even believe it was possible, happened on the first try. So if she could do it, you could do it too. You just have to learn.
Totally. I didn't even know. Yeah. I literally didn't know anything about it. Didn't know how to make it happen. Had never even come close with myself. Really never tried. I just put it on, I had seen it and I'm like, that looks really cool. I want to see, God, can my body do that? How do they do that? And so when a man said, oh yeah, I can do that. And I just was like, I didn't believe him. I'm like, oh, okay. I almost went there just to challenge the fact that no, you don't have that much game. No way.
Typically female.
Yes. It was the instant no, I don't believe that. And anyway, needless to say, that was the last time I questioned his abilities.
So I want to know, because you said that you saw each other for 3.5 years after that. Were you more into doing open relationships? What kind of format were you using, or are you still using? And has it shifted throughout those years?
Yes, good question. So yeah, in the beginning, I was just very upfront with everybody. Like, this is, what I'm doing. And I don't expect that one person is going to come along and meet all these needs and tick off everything on this list and want to do everything on this list. And so therefore, anybody that I was with knew straight out of the gate that I would be having other partners as well. And they were free to do the same. There was just, and you had to be okay with that. And if anything changed, then of course I would hope that someone would come to me and tell me. And throughout the years, I had several open relationships. And then as they, I had also very deep, committed, loving relationships. And, where you start out one way and feelings develop and things change. And that's all part of it. That's just life. You can't really, I was a little naive in the beginning because I thought, again, with my more business sternness, I'm like, yeah, no, don't worry about me. I'm not going to be getting attached to anybody. And I'm pretty good at staying strong to that, but you don't really, at the end of the day, control that. So feelings do develop, and it's not a big deal. You just have a conversation with somebody, and a lot of the guys, I was actually surprised at how many, how it was the other way. It was the guys at some point saying, they're developing deeper feelings. And because of that, then they're not sure how they feel about, now it's different about knowing that I'm seeing other guys and being intimate with other guys. So, you just cross that bridge when you get there.
Yeah.
I love how you're just like, yeah, it's not a big deal, because that's kind of how we feel. And it's all about communication. You just have to be clear. And when things shift, again, you bring that to the table, you brainstorm, you may find ways to still, find creative ways to stay together or separate or whatever. But I love hearing that somebody else is finding it just as natural and normal as what we always do, because most people make a big deal out of that.
I don't know what was on her bucket list, but I can tell you that there's only about 3, maybe 4 things that I absolutely would not be up for, and everything else is fair game.
All right, so we're going to dive more into her bucket list, but first let's give a little break to our sponsors. Yes, Kevin, you're going to know more about Leila's bucket list, okay?
Oh, we will.
If you are loving our show and you want to find ways to help your sex life and your health, your relationship, Kevin and I have put together products that are ours and our hand-picked affiliates. We're very picky about who we choose, what we like, and what they have to offer. They have to be really good stuff. And so if you want to support us, go and purchase any of the products from us or our affiliates, because it supports the work that we do, and we can continue to help as many couples as possible, or as many singles too, it doesn't really matter, as many people with their love life. So you'll find anything from biohacking, supplements, courses, books, tips, so many
sex
things.
mats so you don't destroy so many beds.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So go to CelineRemy.com/products. And when it comes to sex mats, I think we have we have like 4-ish.
Yeah. We keep some upstairs, some downstairs, some for everywhere. Travel.
Yes, we have smaller ones.
Very important.
We can't live without that. So maybe, do you want to go a little bit into were there some?
Oh wait, yeah, I have some questions I definitely want to ask about this bucket list. So the first one I asked already, which was, what was the very first thing that you checked off the list? The second question I have is, what is the wildest, craziest, most over the top thing that you've done that was on that list?
Oh, well, shoot. The pressure. See, some people will be like, oh, that's not, the sex parties, I think, having sex in front of other people, strangers, not with strangers. I haven't actually done, when I've gone to sex parties, I've gone with a partner. And so the first sex party I went to, that was a big story. And then the
Is it a
second
good story?
one,
Hold on. Is it a good story? All
It
right,
is.
the second one sounds better.
Well, I would say this. I would say the first one was just eye-opening because I had all these preconceived ideas about what it was going to be. And they told us, so it was like a masquerade. So we went and got these masks, and I thought it was just going to be all these beautiful people dressed to the nines. And we were going to be in this like house on the hill, just like a movie. And we roll up and we're in the suburbs, and I'm like, what? There's station wagons all over the place. Like, what is going on? We walk into someone's house and it's a takeover of their home, and every room is like covered in plastic.
That's usually how they are.
They had a potluck with bubbling chili, and I was like, oh, ew. Like,
oh, no. Chili is a bad idea for a sex party. I won't tell the story, but there was a sex party I went to where there was a catered meal beforehand and they served beans. Let's just say not a good idea before a sex party.
Somebody wasn't thinking. That's all I got to say. Like, that was my thought. As a woman, I was like, oh no, like, who is eating this? It's greasy, it's bubbly. Oh my, I was mortified. So anyway, so we make our way around, and most people were naked at that point because we got there a little bit late. And I just was really, it was just normal people. Mm-hmm. And I really thought, and which is great, by the way. And as I tell this story, again, when I get to look retrospectively, it was a good lesson, because that's who sex is for. It's for everybody. It's for normal people, and I had just this Hollywood idea in my head, like, we're going to get there. And
you thought it was going to be Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut.
Everybody's going to be beautiful. And like, they came off the, a magazine cover, and it just was everybody, you could possibly think of, all different body types, ages, and so once I kind of got over that little shock, like, oh, okay, not what I was expecting. Then I started walking around, we got relaxed, I got into it. And since it was my first time, I wasn't ready to just, start having sex in front of all these complete strangers. But what we did was we ended up in a room where there was most people were there with their partners in that room, and they were having sex, and nobody was touching each other. It was all just kind of separate, but then people were walking through, and you could watch and be a voyeur, or however you wanted to experience it. And I decided that I didn't want to have sex, but I was ready, that my partner was definitely going to have like the best blowjob of his life. So I gave him a blowjob and let other people watch. It was really interesting because I could hear people behind me talking and watching, and that was exciting because I could hear that it was I could hear that what I was doing was turning them on. And so that was kind of my first little indication that I like to be watched. I didn't know that, but through that experience, that's what sort of then opened some more doors to experience some other things where I'm more, I get to be watched, and I enjoy that. And I didn't know that about, I just hadn't figured that out about myself. But that's the beauty of the bucket list, is sometimes you go there, you experience something, and it doesn't, in your mind, you thought it would be a certain way, and it doesn't actually end up what you thought you were going to get out of it. You don't, but something else reveals itself. And then that just opens up a whole nother realm of possibilities. So everything has been positive that I've done, even though, and some of them weren't exactly as I thought they would be. They led to other amazing discoveries.
Yeah. I love the point that you made about, you had this idea of what you thought a sex party would be like. And then you got there and you realized, wait a minute, it's just, we've been to a lot of sex parties. Like, so, they're always just in somebody's house in the burbs. Sometimes the houses are rather large and nice. Sometimes they're not, people have rented houses, mm-hmm. But the thing is, it's a regular, yeah, you remember that one, right? What were they calling it? Cough Manor?
Yeah, there were like roosters everywhere, and you had to be careful about like not destroying things. It's like because you're renting a
they rented
B&B.
an Airbnb, and whoever's Airbnb it was, they had this theme of roosters, and so it got nicknamed Cock Manor because there were these roosters, and they were like porcelain roosters everywhere, and you're like, don't bump the table and break the cock, you know. Anyway, back to the original point, which was that you suddenly realize that it's just regular people, like old people, young people, fat people, skinny people, gorgeous people, people that are like, ooh, it's a little rough to look at, but it's everything.
Yeah. Yes,
right?
yes,
It's
totally.
definitely not just the Hollywood version.
Well, and I think it really helps us too. And I think especially for us women to realize that the image that we have from magazines that are all airbrushed and not real, and that we put in our head as this ideal woman, nobody really is that. And once you start to go out there and you're like, oh, she's got pubic hair or a little cellulite, it's actually normal. Oh, there's a little chubbiness there too. Cool. Well, and she's just gorgeous and she's loving herself. Well, why don't I do the same thing? You know,
Right.
I mean, it's so liberating because then you just come to a place of acceptance for yourself. And I'm sure it works both ways. I'm just coming at it from the female perspective.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And we sort of, I think for women, we need to see examples of it in
Yes.
other women. And that's why it's so beneficial, because all we see in the media is the perfect image.
Mhm.
And then we're like, oh, okay. So, you know, we need to see it represented, you know, among the sisterhood, the real women of the world, you know, so it's great.
So, you know, for me, it was like seeing a woman with body hair. Because I was always obsessing, like, okay, my legs like properly waxed or shaven, like whatever, you know. And it's like this lady couldn't care less, and I was just like, well, she's right. Who cares? And it doesn't stop me from having pleasure or orgasm. Why am I obsessing so much about that? And that totally changed everything for me. And then the first time I gave myself permission, because I wax, so it's not always like perfect. It's the time of regrowth. Then when the first time I went somewhere and did not apologize for not having wax, it was a huge thing and so liberating.
Yes, I have a quick little funny story. I have a friend who used to be an exotic dancer, and we both do yoga, and we went to yoga teacher training together. And I became really good friends with her. And I said, I got to ask you, what is going on with your bush? Like, what's up with that business? and she's like, and she starts laughing, you know, and I go, because I knew she had a boyfriend. I go, your boyfriend doesn't care, or, you know, is this, and then when she used to be an exotic dancer, I go, did you let it go like that when you were dancing? Did anybody care? She's like, listen, this pussy is going to get eaten, whether or not it's shaved or full bush. And I was like, really? And I was like, she's just like, men don't care, you know? And I was like, oh, okay, you're right. I know, here I am being the woman that cares. And she's like, doesn't matter. They don't care. Right? I was like, thank you for that lesson.
Well,
I love it.
The thing also is that there's somebody out there that has every preference, right? So there's always going to be somebody that loves a full bush, somebody that loves just a trim, somebody that wants it completely shaven. Like there's somebody out there that loves it no matter what you got. So
totally. Yeah.
And even if it's not their preference, she's right. They're still going to eat that pussy if it's in front of them.
That's right.
That's true. That's true. They might pull a hair or two out of their teeth, but they're still happy.
Totally. She's a beautiful woman. Like, and if you know, I know, like, I cannot see a man turning her away because she wasn't waxed or she wasn't shaved. And, but I remember at the time just going, oh, is that style coming back? Is that what we're working with now? You know, it's like, I just wanted to know, you know, I was just asking her. And then I go, so did you get any pushback on that? And she's just like, no. Men don't care. Yeah, they're going to go for it.
Okay, I got one more question about the bucket list, and we've got some other questions too, but I just want one more question on the bucket list. I'm wondering if there was something on that bucket list that was like another like pivotal moment or the most memorable thing, or like this has been a journey over 6 years. Is there some point in there that was really like this huge light bulb epiphany, something like that?
Yes, a game changer, a life changer. Yes, it was exploring BDSM.
I knew she'd be a candidate for BDSM because she's A-type personality and they absolutely need BDSM. Please continue with the story.
So I just thought, okay, let's just try it. I just want to find somebody that's experienced that can show me some things, because I just didn't know anything about it. But, I'd watched and there were things about it that I found erotic, and I was drawn to. Didn't totally understand why, but I was just, again, it's no judgment. It's my bucket list. I didn't have to have a big reason for why I wanted to try it. It's just like, if I wanted to try it, it went on the list. So, I met someone that said, yeah, I have experience in this, and, I can absolutely kind of lead you through it safely. And, you can try, and he'll respect my boundaries and all that. And I'll have to say, I want to say this to people that are listening, for that, to find that one guy. I mean, I had to talk to a lot of ding dongs. There's, and on this subject matter, it is really, really widely misunderstood. Mm-hmm. And the perception is it's about, women on her knees and, oh, yes, sir. And, that all that garbage that you see, just try to put that aside, because it's misrepresenting it. It's misrepresented in porn. And then a lot of guys see that and think, they can just have sex with you the first time, and who's your daddy and who owns this pussy and, all that stupid shit. And it's like, you're not my daddy. And, you don't, shut up, like you don't have a right to ask me this, really. Like this, I have not given you permission. So I just want to put that out there, because you do have to kind of weed through a lot of goofballs. But when you find somebody that's really good at it, it just opens up a whole nother world. So that was just my hugest revelation. It helped me understand why there were men in my life that were great on paper, had all the right stuff, and I couldn't figure out why am I not totally loving this guy? Why am I not just like, something feels off? What is it? And it was really just that I need a dominant man. I need a man that knows how to lead and knows how to be the man. And that with my life and my business life and making all the decisions and having to put that hat on and that armor on, I need to come home and be in my feminine. I need to be the woman. And if you're asking me to make all these decisions and sort of lead as well, over time, it became, for me, a turnoff. It just wasn't, I didn't feel like this is somebody I could go the distance with. And I didn't understand why I was feeling that way. So it was confusing for a very long time. Because, I would just pick the nice guy. It's like all these things, all these boxes, everybody loves him, family, he's a doctor, this, that, check. And it just wasn't, but there was always that nagging inside of me, like, you are bored with this. Like you are not happy. So yeah.
This is a huge point that I think a lot of women are missing today, given the current societal structure, the push against masculinity, the push for women to be that everything, do it all, get it all done kind of thing. I'm willing to bet that when the current culture dynamic passes over, you are going to see a resurgence of women looking for strong, masculine men that they can feel safe with and that they can surrender to. Doesn't mean be passive. It doesn't mean any of that stuff that people think it means. But
you're not a doormat.
Nope.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I think we're going to see that, because I think what you just described is a common experience for so many women out there right now. And I love the fact that you were able to figure it out and you used BDSM as a tool to get there. Now, you don't have to use BDSM as a tool to get there, but it was a way, because when you start playing with power dynamics like that, it becomes real obvious.
Well, oh my gosh. I mean, for me, it just opened up a whole new world. There's nothing like it for me that I've ever experienced. The even just in the sex act, everything leading up to it, the way we relate outside of the bedroom, just as much as inside of the bedroom, phenomenal. Like that's the type of dynamic that keeps me hot for somebody constantly. Like it doesn't shut off. I don't care if we're grocery shopping. I'm like, the energy is buzzing. It's like we're like two little kids. We just want to be around each other. It's that electricity and you always, and it's the one thing too that so endears you to that person, that you will be brave enough to have a big disagreement with them, but you trust and know that you can go there with them and it's okay, that you're going to, you'll come out of it working it out. I mean, there's just it, because there's so much trust and connection, and it demands great conversation and dialogue to be successful. And that's what great relationships are based on anyway. And so when you get to go into it with that door already open, and it almost just like tricks you into it, because normally you might be like, oh, I'm going to hold back. I'm a little more shut down. I'm a little more reserved. With this, you can't do it. You cannot do it. And you have to push past that, and you're pushing past that for other reasons, but then it makes, all the other stuff, conversations about anything difficult, just super easy and comfortable. And you're able to do it. It's very fluid.
From the moment in the beginning of the show, when you described yourself as an A-type personality, I knew there was going to be a BDSM story. I knew it. I was just waiting to pull it out because I knew it was there.
So I'm curious if you have any advice for our listeners, if they like wanting to explore more, what are some of the things that you would tell them they should do, or like first step?
First step to explore more sexually?
Yes, obviously, because that's kind of what we've been talking about. But and whether, and I think it could work both, like whether they're single, they've had a dry spell, or even if they're in relationship and they're like, they're not going after what they want. Because basically it's for anyone who's realizing they're not getting what they want, basically sexually.
Right. Okay. So my big thing, the thing that's driven this whole, really, just a simple thing that's driven this whole process for 6 years now, is the sex bucket list. And I change, I update it and I change it because I learn new things and I want to try new things, and it grows and expands, and so I would say that's the best place to start, because that's going to let you know where you're steering the ship. And then, if you're by yourself, also with a partner, because it's kind of fun. Like, you can say, let's make this list together. You make a list, I'll make a list. Let's exchange them. Let's show, like, I want to spice things up. And I actually, because I feel that Sex Bucket List has been such a powerful tool for me, to keep my sex life hot and spicy and fresh, over this amount of time, I created a little course. It's just a freebie where people can go, and I walk them through how to make a sex bucket list. Just give them ideas, get them going in the right direction. Because a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know what turns me on. Where do I start? I mean, you think you know what it is now, but you also know you want to branch out. So, I kind of have some tips and tricks for how to do that.
So where can they get it if they want it?
I know. Here's the kicker. It's almost done. I just have to do the landing page, and it's almost up. So by the time you air this, we can put that in your show notes, I assume.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
It'll be on your website, I imagine.
It'll be on my website. Yeah, it'll be on thecuriousgirldiaries.com, definitely. But also just, I'll get you the link to it. That's like the last thing. I was just talking to the platform that I'm hosting it on, and I was like, okay, now I got to do the landing page. And so I was getting tips for it, how to do it. So it's almost done. Once it's done, then boop, the URL is created. So. Okay.
Yeah. That's great. And we'll add it to there. And there's always the Curious Girl Diaries. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yes.
The website, thecuriousgirldiaries.com.
Yeah. You also have a podcast. If they want to hear more about your juicy stories, because we're kind of like winding down this episode, like what's your podcast? Where can they listen to it?
Yeah. the podcast is called The Curious Girl Diaries. That you can find that on any major syndicator of podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anything. Google it. It'll pop up. It's been around for 6 years. So it's easy to find. But I always recommend just people go to the website too, thecuriousgirldiaries.com. From there, you can link anywhere you want to go. All of my social medias. You can leave me a voicemail. I love to get voicemails from people. I get back to everybody. Yep, you can click on the pink tab on the right-hand side and leave me a voicemail, and I respond to everybody's questions. We can talk about whatever you want. You can ask me something or just make a comment. And then also you'll have the sex bucket list and everything that I've got going on there. Yeah.
Sweet. Is there something that would make you stop? Have you ever thought like, hey, if this happens, that's when I stop? Or like what's going to be like for you this journey, to continue it as it is or change things around?
Well, I used to say originally I thought I'm going to do this for a year and knock these things off my list. And that's going to be that. I'm going to go right back to my vanilla life as I knew it. And obviously that didn't happen.
That's not happening. Once you take that red pill, there ain't no going back.
I know. Totally. Like my eyes are open. And it's fun. And, your sexuality is just like any aspect of your life. It's growing, changing, evolving, and you've got to put effort into it. And, it doesn't, like I said, it becomes a habit. Over time, it doesn't feel like it's a grind or anything. And it's so fun. It's so rewarding. But, so yeah, I am not going to stop. No, because of that aspect, because we're so wired for pleasure. It's a huge part of who we are as human beings. And I want to keep that going. I want to make a conscious effort to, have the habit of focusing on my sex life and making sure that aspect of me is fulfilled. And that can be, who that's with over time will change. And that can be exclusively, non-exclusively, it's just a matter of, who's in my life and what's right for us and what's agreed on.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So we're coming to our last question, and you probably, I think there has been only 2 guests. That would be you and another guest who was a porn star who didn't blush. But we want to know, what is your best sexual talent?
It is now hand jobs. Oh. I just took this course, and I didn't know, like, I feel I have been ignorant up to this point on all the different ways that you can touch a penis and how you can totally drive a man crazy. Again, with my type A, I'm kind of competitive about, when I'm with somebody, like, I want to rock their world. I never want anybody to say like, that was just okay. So I'm very determined, as much as I'm submissive, and I love to be, have a dominant man really kind of leading me in the bedroom and all that stuff. I want the experience that I give my partner to be just a standout. And I took a class and I learned how to give a really great erotic massage and, touching his penis. And just unbelievable, all the different ways you can do it and the reaction that you get from your partner. And, you can touch him in ways that he cannot, make these different, hand motions and do all this, and to be able just to tease and build it up, and the moans that he makes. And I love the little like moans when you get them right to the edge, and then you kind of taper back a little bit, like, oh, that is just so sweet to me. Like, I love that. Anyway, I have, that is my new sexual superpower. Like, I can sit there and do that for over an hour to you, like, and enjoy every second of it, just lovely. As much as you love it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's not just that, it's not that, I mean, and I say I've been guilty of just the, the standard porn, jack, there's so much more. I think I've been creative. I felt like I had been creative. I've just broadened my horizons. Yeah.
I'm so glad you did. I'm totally going to plug in, because I have a Touch of Love, which is a course that teaches women how to give hand jobs like that too, because I would agree. Once you know how to do it, it is so much fun for the giver as much as the receiver.
I'm going to second that and highly recommend all women take this course.
Isn't it fun as the receiver? Like, I mean,
it's amazing.
And as the giver, I mean, I did it with a partner, and then he came on my podcast, and we talked about it. And, you know, I didn't realize how just little men get that much focus on their penis from their partner. Yes. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, I wish I knew this sooner, you know, because again, I love to please my partner, and men love their penises. I mean, you know, and if you can show it as much love as they love it, woo, you're cooking with gas.
I call it worshiping the cock. When I work with couples, I have a whole module on that. It's like, that's usually where the men are sold and like, we're signing up for this program. Cock worshiping. Yeah, we're in. Where do we pay? Where do we sign up?
Yeah. And it's just as empowering for the woman. Like, I'm like, oh, I got skills. Like, oh, yeah, you're going to be dying if you lose me.
You know, that may have been the most in-depth answer we've gotten to that question on this show.
Yes.
That's great.
Thank you, Leila. That was awesome. Awesome conversation too.
Get your PhD in penis. That's
Yes. I fully support this. PhDs for all women.
You're going to remember 199, your favorite episode.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you, Layla, so much for being on the show. We are definitely out of time, or I would keep asking you questions about stories from your bucket list. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have. But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. And everybody, don't forget, you can find me at thecuriousgirldiaries.com.
All right, everybody. That's all the time we have for this episode, and we will see you next week. We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoy this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends.
And for more free, exclusive content, join us in the Passion Vault at CelineRemy.com/vault. That's CelineRemy.com/vault.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.